Okay, let's talk about something that's becoming more and more common in India: live-in relationships. It's great, but what happens when things don't work out and there's no marriage certificate to fall back on? Especially for women, the legal side of things can get pretty confusing. So let's dive into the crucial rights that can make all the difference. For the longest time, Indian law really only recognized traditional marriage. But things are changing. As so many more couples choose to live together without getting married, the courts have had to adapt, kind of stretching these old laws to fit our new reality. And honestly, it's created a really fascinating, constantly evolving legal space. So, this is the big question, right? If you're a woman in a serious, committed live-in relationship and things fall apart, do you have any legal protection? The answer is yes, absolutely. But, and this is a big but, there are some important conditions. Let's break it all down. So, since there's no single live-in relationship act, the courts came up with something else. You can think of it as a marriage-like test. It's basically the key that unlocks all these legal rights. But to get that key, you have to show that your relationship was way more than just a casual thing. All right, you're going to want to remember this phrase: a relationship in the nature of marriage. This right here is the golden ticket. It's the legal standard. If you can prove your relationship fits this description, then you unlock those protections. But what does that actually mean in practice? Well, this is where it gets really practical. The Supreme Court, in some major rulings, has basically given us a checklist. They're not just looking at one thing, they're looking at the whole picture. How long were you together? Did you share a home? Did you mix your finances, have a joint account or something? Did your friends and family know you as a couple? And of course, having kids together is a big one. It's all about proving you shared a life, not just an address. And this is a really important point. The law is trying to create a safety net for people in genuine, long-term partnerships. It's not for what the courts call walk-in, walk-out relationships. They've made it super clear that casual or very short-term arrangements just don't qualify for these kinds of protections. Okay, so let's say your relationship passes the marriage-like test. Awesome. Now for the important part. What does that actually get you? Let's look at the real-world protections this opens up. Here are the two heavy hitters in your legal toolkit. First, you've got the Domestic Violence Act of 2005. This was a total game changer because it was one of the first laws to say, hey, abuse can happen in any domestic relationship, not just a marriage. This law gives women the power to get protection orders, the right to stay in the shared home, and even get financial relief. Then there's the provision for maintenance, which is a lifeline to make sure a woman isn't left completely destitute after a breakup. And if you need more proof, just listen to this. This quote from the Supreme Court is a real mic drop moment. The court basically said that if a relationship has the status of a wife, then she should be awarded maintenance. This was a massive, massive step forward for women's rights in India. So we've seen there are some strong protections for safety and financial support. That's great. But what about property? This is where things get a lot murkier, a lot more complicated. Let me be super clear about this. A live-in partner does not automatically get to inherit her partner's property if he passes away without a will. Why? Well, our succession laws are pretty old school. They're written for a world where pretty much everyone gets married. This leaves a huge legal gap, and women in live-in relationships can often get left out in the cold. But what about one of the most important aspects? The kids. Now, this is an area where the courts have actually been very progressive. They've said, look, a child is a child, and their parents' marital status doesn't matter. So children born from a long-term live-in relationship are considered legitimate. They're absolutely entitled to financial support. But when it comes to inheritance, the picture gets, well, a bit more complex. Here's the key difference you've got to remember. Think of it this way. Self-acquired property is like a house your parents bought with their own money. Their kids have a right to a share of that. But ancestral property is like a family home that's been passed down for generations. Under most personal laws, a child from a live-in relationship might not have a claim to that. It seems like a small distinction, but it can have a huge impact on a child's future. Whew, okay. That was a lot of information, I know. So let's just take a breath and put all the pieces of this puzzle together. Here are the absolute key things you need to remember about the rights of women in live-in relationships in India today. So to sum it all up, think of it like this. Your rights aren't automatic. You have to prove your relationship was serious and marriage-like. If you can do that, you get access to really important protections against abuse and for financial maintenance. But when it comes to inheriting your partner's property, the law is still a huge gray area. And finally, the good news is that the law strongly protects the rights of your children. The courts have done a pretty remarkable job trying to patch up old laws to fit this new social reality. But is a patchwork solution really enough? As more and more people choose to build their lives together without a marriage certificate, the big question isn't if we need new, clearer laws, but really, when are we going to get them? What do you think?